Wow, this morning has just been an overflow of emotions for me. I'm just on this incredible roller coaster ride of happy, sad, emotional, grateful, just reflecting back on the past and remember what I've come through. And I love Women's Days. It really is just a blessing to be reminded every year of the importance that we have as God's daughters. And I first and foremost want to thank all the gorgeous women of the South region in the City of Angels International Christian Church. Thank you all for your hard work and the planning of this incredible event. The decorations are so beautiful, simple yet elegant. The food tastes amazing. And to all the testimonial speakers, thank you for just pouring out your hearts, my sisters. It's not easy standing up here and being super vulnerable like that. And yet they had the courage to do that this morning. And, I did serve in Long Beach years ago, 3 years ago, and I actually had the opportunity to give birth to my daughter here in this ministry. So all these sisters here, the women who have invited you out to the Women's Day event today, saw me carry this, this heavy child of mine, struggling days on ends in the campus ministry, and they got to witness the aftermath of it. My daughter came, and it was an amazing time as they supported me and really lifted up my arms. And so I'm thankful for you guys. Thank you for your love. Even to Elizabeth Cohen is so beautiful. She's your director for today. Let's give her a round of applause. Liz is a powerful, powerful woman. She's super sharp. This woman just radiates from her soul, very hardworking. And as a result, today we have a spectacular event. So thank you, Liz, for this amazing event today. And so this morning, and rather this afternoon, I will be speaking about the incredible theme of radiance. I thought about this theme and I realized, man, this is such an amazing theme, because what does the world look for? The world looks for every last bit of glimmer. Women want to sparkle. Women want to shine. Actually, there is a sister who was nicknamed Sparkles from the South region. And women want to glory. They want to feel beautiful. And yet the world has this crazy idea that radiance is something external, that it has to do with all the latest washes, organic cleansers, being religious in your faith, but being religious in your self-care. Every Sunday night needs to be a spa bath. Every day needs to be a workout, 30 minutes a day. Let's go BBG, bikini body, such and such, and just all kinds of things. And we're just so surrounded by the media that tells us this is what it means to be beautiful, and this is what it means to be powerful. This is what it means to have dewy, glowy skin. I'm like, I don't have dewy, glowy skin, but I have foundation. I can do that. But then it gets tiring, doesn't it? It gets really tiring. And that's why today I'm going to be speaking about an incredible woman named Esther. I truly believe that this woman is an amazing example of what it means to just really let radiance shine from within. So let's take a look. Today, we're going to open up our Bibles starting in Esther 2. And I would like to just give a little bit of a historical background just to help you understand what the story was all about and where it took place. So, Esther is a woman who was actually Jewish. And because at the time, King Xerxes I was really upset with his former queen, Queen Vashti. Queen Vashti had an attitude. She was mad. She was upset that he had been drinking, was in high spirits, and one day he called out for Queen Vashti and said, I need you to come out so I can look at you because you're so beautiful. And the Bible doesn't share specific details as to why she was really upset, but she decided to not obey this woman probably had gone through a lot of internal challenges as queen, as the woman behind the man. And he expected her to come out. And the Bible does say that she was lovely, meaning exquisitely beautiful, extremely gorgeous in form and in features. And yet this woman decided, nope, I'm not going to come out. I'm hard-hearted. I don't care what you think. Go ahead, depose me. And unfortunately, that's what he did. And in this time frame, the Jews who were in the land were in a time of exile. So it was a very difficult, challenging time for the nation of Israel. So it's interesting that as we look into the story, Mordecai, who plays a significant role, is the one who works closely to the king, but yet carries in to the scenery Esther, who is his cousin. Esther was born, and yet she grew up without parents, and so he took her under his care. Let's start off in Esther 2, reading verses 7 through 10. And if you don't have a Bible, don't be shy to ask for a Bible from the woman who invited you out today. Or if you have your handy phones, that's awesome too. It's 2019, so we're okay with that. Okay, so Esther 2, starting in verses 7 through 10, the Bible reads, Mordecai had a cousin named Hadassah, whom he had brought up because she had neither father nor mother. This young woman, who was also known as Esther, had a lovely figure and was beautiful. Mordecai had taken her as his own daughter when her father and mother died. When the king's order and edict had been proclaimed, many young women were brought to the citadel of Susa and put under the care of Hegai. Esther also was taken to the king's palace and entrusted to Hegai, who had charge of the harem. She pleased him and won his favor. Immediately, he provided her with her beauty treatments and special food. I want special food. He assigned to her 7 female attendants selected from the king's palace and moved her and her attendants into the best place in the harem. Esther had not revealed her nationality and family background because Mordecai had forbidden her to do so. So we have a good chunk of information here. The Bible explains that Mordecai is Esther's cousin, and Hadassah was her Hebrew name, which means myrtle. Myrtle is a little shrub with flowers around it. So he raised her. And so Esther did have a knowledge and a faith of God. And the Bible describes that she too, like Queen Vashti, was very lovely, very exquisite, beautiful in features and in form. And yet she displays a very interesting quality about herself. Already you see how this woman has a soft heart. She's gentle. She's kind. And how do we know that? Well, it's because she's willing to take advice. She listened to her cousin who said, do not reveal your nationality, but keep it quiet so that you are safe. So if you can imagine Esther being a young woman, being chosen and selected by command, she did not have a choice, neither did Mordecai, was brought into the citadel of Susa in order to, for lack of a better word, be interviewed by the king and his noble, Hegai. But the amazing thing is that as soon as Esther comes, she immediately wins Hegai over. My point number 1 today is brilliant spiritual radiance. Brilliant spiritual radiance. Esther had an ability. She had a skill. And it was all from within. You know, the scripture talks about how she pleased him, won his favor. This is Hegai, who was in charge of the young women to bring them to the king. And it says that it was after that she was taken in to be beautified and go through this crazy, intense process of beautification. And we see significantly that Esther was a woman who was favorable. She had that quality, that golden essence to her core that allowed people to be super attracted to her. Let's read on, verse 12. Before a young woman's turn came to go into King Xerxes, she had to complete 12 months of beauty treatments prescribed. I know, right? 12 months? Couldn't y'all just take a bath? Put on some deodorant? My goodness. 12 months of beauty treatments prescribed for the women, 6 months with oil of myrrh, and 6 with perfumes and cosmetics. Man. Verse 15. When the turn came for Esther, the young woman Mordecai had adopted, the daughter of his uncle Abihail, to go to the king, she asked for nothing other than what Hegai, the king's eunuch who was in charge of the harem, suggested. And Esther won the favor of everyone who saw her. Verse 17. Now the king was attracted to Esther more than to any of the other women, and she won his favor and approval more than any of the other virgins. So he set a royal crown on her head and made her queen instead of Vashti. Wow. You know, I think it's just funny when we see that part in verse 12, and it talks about the lengthy process of what it means to be good enough, or what it means to qualify externally, only externally. It says 12 months of beauty treatments. That sounds kind of nice, but the point is, that's just excessive, right? Right? If Sephora, you know what's funny? If Sephora had a year-long package, you know, I don't know, $150 or maybe $300 for you to get this kind of treatment, I bet many women in the world would fly in trying to purchase that package because we as women want to be beautiful. We want to feel like we can glow. We want to know that we're worth something, and that truly the lies of Satan that we're not worth it are false. But how many of us here today are like this? We tend to look to these outer things instead of to our own hearts. And it may not be because you don't value what's inside, but it could just mean you just don't know how. You don't know how to get through it. So what else do you have other than to try and survive? You know, try and keep up with your budget and stay up to date with the latest YouTube show about how to do your makeup and concealer. And I don't know, guys. I can't keep up with all that stuff, but I need some help sometimes. In verse 15, again, we see the radiance from within where Esther asked for nothing other than what Hegai, her trainer, had suggested. So each time the Bible states that Esther is beautiful and she won the favor of people and she had this quality about her that was super attractive and endearing, we see that the two are paired. Not only was she beautiful on the outside, but she was gorgeous in the inside because she had a soft heart. Yeah. Wow. And soft to who, you may ask? Well, soft to God and to the people he put in her life to help her. Wow. And so this is why she had a brilliant inner radiance. And in verse 17, we see that even the king, okay, first Hegai, her trainer, was won over. Then it was all the people. Okay, Esther. And then finally it was the king, right? And the king gave her the very best. So he set a royal crown on her head and made her queen instead of Vashti. Wow. I mean, I'm sorry, Vashti, but you set a pretty bad example there. And you know what? Life's not fair, is it? Life sucks sometimes, right? It's painful. It's hurtful. It makes us cry sometimes. We don't know who we are a lot of the time because we're crazy and we're emotional. And we feel like we're powerless at times. And Queen Vashti, she probably had a really difficult circumstance being the queen. But there was still no excuse to be ungodly, no excuse to step out of bounds. She was extremely disobedient, disrespectful to the king who has to rule her kingdom. And yet, we see something of opposite nature in Esther. That both of them were gorgeous, right? Lovely means exquisitely beautiful. The both of them were extremely gorgeous, lovely, beautiful, all these things. But the difference was their hearts. Esther, too, had a challenging circumstance. She did not have parents. She didn't have a choice of whether or not she wanted to be interviewed by the king. She had to just go in and be ready and be taken. But luckily, she had a faith in God because of Mordecai and God's sovereignty. So who are you? Are you Queen Vashti? Mad at life? Or are you Esther, who is faithful, trusting, taking it step by step, and willing, very, very willing? Esther pleased everyone around her. She gained the favor of those who simply saw her. And I want to make this clear. When you see someone, you don't just see how their hair is done, how long it is, if they straighten it that day, if they put on, the latest fashion trends. No, you see their very essence. So even as we walk around in this room today, we don't just see the colors that we're wearing, but we see the spirit in each other's eyes. And when the people saw Esther, they saw much more than her lovely form and features. They saw her faith. She was able to be still. She had a great strength of being self-controlled. She did not need to rebel and fend for herself. She was strong. And in those 3 sections where it says that she won the favor of everyone, we understand that it's favorable in God's eyes because it's in the Bible. So what does favorable in God's eyes mean? I looked it up for you. Google Dictionary helped me out. And favorable pretty much is anything that is good, merry, cheerful, merciful, kind, joyful, goodly, honest. All these qualities of a loving, faithful heart. And this we see is what God desires for us. Sometimes we're responsible for our own downfalls because we don't know how to respond to life and its challenges. But yet God says this is the way to be. So my question in our first point is, are you beautiful but not favorable? Who are you right now? And if you need to grow, well, welcome to the club. Okay, because I need to grow in being favorable. I look at Esther and I think, man, she had such a great heart, really humble, just willing. And sometimes we think we need to take control, but she didn't. So we need to be women who are favorable in God's eyes. I'm going to share a little bit about my testimony. Because there was a point in time in which I saw this brilliant spiritual radiance, but it took quite a little bit of time to get there. And I'll tell you where I saw that radiance. And so in my upbringing, when I was a child, I was 2 worlds in one. I was extremely shy. I was the kind of girl that my mom would drag around, and my older sister would be in the front. I'd be like this in the back of my mom. Awkward. And then at the same time, I was the craziest, most hyper, running around all the time kind of girl with a 2-pack and just biking like crazy, collecting roly-polies in my hamster ball and just crazy kind of little girl. That was me. And I believe I had the purity and the innocence of what it meant to be a kid, a child. So life comes on, I experience pain, And my purity, my innocence became more and more tainted. I started to lose that joy. When I was in second and third grade, I got really insecure. I look back sometimes and I think, I don't know how this happened. God, can you tell me why I'm this way? But around that time, I got really insecure. And I never really directly connected this event, and I'll tell you in a bit, to that, because the way I responded wasn't exactly what psychology says is the reason why you were impacted in such a way. But basically, I was molested. I was sexually abused in the second grade by a family member for a period of time. And I got really confused. And I thought, who do I tell? Do I tell somebody? Or is what this person telling me, is it true? Is this good? And I didn't understand it. And then eventually, I started to compare myself to other girls in the playground. I was only in second grade, guys. I started to feel really insecure about my clothing. I knew that we weren't as wealthy as the others. This was in Irvine, guys. I looked at my corduroy overalls and I was like, she looks better in hers. She has better butterfly hair clips than me. And I was insecure. One day, I fainted off the swing out of just sadness as a second grader. Isn't that crazy? I'm like, what was I thinking back then? My goodness, I fainted and I fractured my wrist. And I felt a lot. Eventually, life goes on. Living in our apartments in Irvine, my parents had struggles in their marriage because of finances. They were mad at each other all the time. And my dad commits adultery, infidelity. And my world was shaken. And I tear up because it's a very painful part of the challenges from my upbringing. But thank God there's been healing. It's just looking at the pain that we go through can be so hard at times. So at that time, my father was my best friend. He used to take me to the beach. We would collect seashells. And when my sister wouldn't come, I would say, I got to spend time with Daddy because we're Asian American. I never called my dad Daddy. I called him Daddy. I'm Indonesian, so I just want to let you guys know that. But I used to say, I went out with Daddy. It was great. We had a blast. Got my seashells. And I was like, man, I love my dad. He takes care of me. I'm his girl. And one day I hear that he's not doing so well. And I thought, man, what happened to my dad? I thought, what's going on? Why is he hurting this bad? To the point that he would hurt my mom. My mom, not knowing how to respond, just would say mean things that I didn't agree with. Go test your dad. Ask him for Beanie Babies. I used to collect Beanie Babies. See what he says. I asked my dad. He said no, they ran out at Marriott. Clearly that wasn't true. So my dad became this hardened man, not knowing how to deal with life and problems. And as soon as that happened, my life crumbled, it felt. Within a few weeks or days, we had to move from Irvine to San Bernardino. And all of a sudden, I was like, where am I? Kids talking about things being tight and sick and ill and dope, and I'm like, what? Okay. This guy had an eraser one time, and it was one of those that you click. Actually, no, I had that. And he was like, that's sick. I said, what? Never mind. And so my life changed because of the infidelity. My parents fought through it. They're still together to this day, and I'm really grateful. And so then life goes on. I get through high school. hard for me to focus. I get involved with many relationships, and I get to college. I said, bye, San Bernardino. Goodbye, IE. I'm done. You guys can come visit me in Fullerton. Cal State Fullerton, here I come. Woohoo! I told myself I wanted to be like Oprah. Oh boy. I wanted to be like Oprah, and I wanted to be a B-girl. At the same time, I was all over the place. So, one day in Dance 101 at Cal State Fullerton, okay, at the time I was pledging for a sorority. Again, I told you guys I was crazy. I was very insecure trying to figure out who I was. Dance 101, this guy, probably about the same age as me, he comes in 2 weeks late to our class. I said, who does this guy think he is coming this late, man? We do roll call, and they call my name. And at the end of class, this man follows me. He says, hey, what's up? So, Natalie, huh? Excuse me? Why are you trying to figure out my name? So he would walk me to my next class, poli-sci, political science. And we were talking about dancing. He talked about my little high-top gold Puma shoes and my sweatpants because I thought I was so cool. I was cool, guys. Okay? And he said, let's hang out. And little did I know that this would be my husband in the future. His name is Mason Fetzelika. And at the time, I got to see his incredible change. He was the boy that would walk me to my next class, not knowing what he was doing in life, to the man that would create boundaries in our friendship, in our acquaintance-like friendship, and say that he was trying to focus more on God. One day I asked him, where'd you go? Where you been at? I kind of miss you. Sorry, I've been trying to focus on being a disciple. I said, what? A disciple? What is that? So, what's incredible from the story is that I saw Mason change. He had a radiance in his eyes. It wasn't his long, thick Polynesian eyelashes, although I thought it was that. One day he walks me to my next class and he says, guess what? I said, what? Kind of timid by his joy and happiness and favor. It's like, what's going on? I'm going to get baptized. I said, what? And you know what, guys? I grew up Seventh-day Adventist. I was very religious, and I was convicted. And I thought, man, how is this man seeking God, and I'm over here trying to make it through this sorority process? This is crazy. But he got baptized and became a disciple, and I saw his example. His happiness kind of irritated me. I thought, why are you so happy? This isn't real. Stop it. And before I knew it, there was distance created. He really wasn't trying to get involved, and that was the first thing that I saw about a man changed. Any guy that I would talk to in college would want to hang out, but this one, no. Okay, all right, I got my eye on you. All right, okay. So anyway, Mason had this glow, and this is the question of today. Do you have that glow? And if you don't have that glow from within, this radiance, do you know how to get it? I want to encourage you to ask God for help. Start there. Let's go on to point number 2, sparkling pressurized radiance. Sparkling pressurized radiance. And so eventually Mordecai, Esther's cousin, he's such a man of integrity. He finds out that there were noblemen trying to kill the king. And he tells Queen Esther, hey, this is what's about to happen. Do something about it. And so she's well informed. She saves the king, and the conspiracy is fully stopped. It's uncovered. It's done and dealt with. But you know what's so crazy? In this part of the story, as soon as Mordecai does such a noble thing, he's not even honored. In fact, a different man is honored for something else. His name was Haman. the man that would become the one to threaten the lives of all the Jews of the nation. Let's go to Esther 3, starting in verse 2. You guys okay? Did I bore you? Wake up! I'm going to throw this at you. Actually, I need my water, okay? Don't make me work too hard. Okay, Esther 3, verse 2, it says, all the royal officials at the king's gate knelt down and paid honor to Haman, for the king had commanded this concerning him. But Mordecai would not kneel down or pay him honor. Uh-oh. Then the royal officials at the king's gate asked Mordecai, why do you disobey the king's command? When Haman saw that Mordecai would not kneel down or pay him honor, he was enraged. Yet having learned who Mordecai's people were, he scorned the idea of killing only Mordecai. Instead, Haman looked for a way to destroy all Mordecai's people, the Jews, throughout the whole kingdom of Xerxes. So the reason why Mordecai would not bow down to honor Haman was because of political, historical beef between the Amalekites and the Jews. When the Jews left the Egyptian nation, or Egypt, the Amalekites attacked the Israelites. And from then on, there was feud between each other. So it wasn't that Mordecai didn't want to honor another man. It was because of reverence for his people. But this is what the result of was doing that. Many lives were at stake now because of this gesture. Starting in verse 8, it says, then Haman said to King Xerxes, there is a certain people dispersed among the peoples in all the provinces of your kingdom who keep themselves separate. Their customs are different from those of all other people, and they do not obey the king's laws. It is not in the king's best interest to tolerate them. If it pleases the king, let a decree be issued to destroy them, and I will give 10,000 talents of silver to the king's administrators for the royal treasury. So the king took his signet ring from his finger and gave it to Haman, son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of the Jews. Verse 13, dispatches were sent by couriers to all the king's provinces with the order to destroy, kill, and annihilate all Jews, young and old, women and children, on a single day, the 13th day of the 12th month, the month of Adar, and to plunder their goods. Oh my goodness. Suddenly, thousands of lives are threatened. Mordecai drops to his knees, starts wailing, weeping, and crying, what have I done? These are my family members, my mothers, my cousins, my brothers, my sisters. What is going to happen? These innocent children, these women who are going to be murdered. So he had it on his heart to plead for help. And who did he think of? Esther, Queen Esther. And so I want to take a pause there and just reflect for a second. That if you go back and read Esther on your own, you'll see that after Mordecai was not honored for uncovering the conspiracy, and that Haman was instead this man who was wanting to kill his people, Mordecai decided that he would not be upset. He would not retaliate. Sometimes as women, we are so entitled. We want to give with expectation. We don't want to give selflessly. We want to give so we can be proven who we are, that we're valuable, that we're worth it. We need a thank you. But Mordecai was not that way. He embraced pressure. He embraced hardship, crying on the ground. He looked at hardship and thought, I'm going to do something about this. We need to see that God is sovereign and that he's in control of our lives. He either makes things happen or he allows them to happen, because if there's a God, there's a Satan. And so he didn't think, let me just sit here and do nothing. He did something about it, and he decided to ask help from Queen Esther. We have to be okay with not being acknowledged, because our worth doesn't come from that anyway. You know, the world will be cruel. People will say mean things about you because they don't know you. because they're ignorant. They think they're doing something for God, and yet they're hurting you. People will be lost in their religiosity. People will be all about themselves. People are about money. People are about selfish gain. They don't want to care about you, though they think they are. People can be very well intended, but accidentally or can intentionally hurt us. But we have to remember that this is Satan's land. He's going to do anything he can to viciously attack you, threaten you, make you feel little, because he doesn't want you to know God. He doesn't want you to know who God is. He doesn't want you in heaven. He wants to torture you. He wants you to doubt that God can save you. And we got to be smart. They call it street smart, but this is spiritual smart. This isn't home. This is Satan's land. So we got to think above our feet, outside the box, and respond righteously to hardship. We got to embrace the pressure and do the right thing. Literally, a life crisis was put on his shoulders, and he had to think quick. And it's amazing what the story uncovers, and that eventually the people are saved. But we're going to read through how they are saved. But another question I have for you today is, how do you respond to pain and hardship? And spiritually speaking, what have you not done that God has been calling you to change? You know that thing that's been heavy on your heart? Yep, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That thing in the back of your mind, what have you not surrendered yet to God? It could be believing in God. We all have different struggles, but what is it? And are you willing to face it? Because you need to if you want to overcome. Come on now. So I knew that growing up, back to my testimony again, guys. I knew that growing up, I had to face my demons. 21 years old, Cal State Fullerton. I got myself into a lot of crazy things, but things I never thought I would do. I was very, very promiscuous, very immoral, sexually immoral with relationships. I thought one day, man, what am I doing? Why am I doing this to myself? And I realized one day in the shower, literally after a crazy night with a man, I thought, wow, I've really lost my dignity. I never thought that I would join a sorority. I never thought that I would just sleep with any guy. But I did. And it was a wake-up call. And I realized I had to do something about it. There are not only demons on campus, there are demons in religion. A lot of leaders put on a facade that this way or that way is the truth. Not because they're bad-hearted, but because Satan has done a great job at confusing people as to what the truth really is. And so it's our responsibility to do something about it and to start in the Bible. What does the Bible really say? And I had to do that. My family are all Seventh-day Adventists. And at one point I got so broken, I thought, I have nothing to lose. I know they're going to be mad at me, but I need the word because I had not received it. 21 years of my life, I learned nothing besides Jesus is from God. God rested on the seventh day. Adam and Eve were the first two beings. And so growing up, I thought, what does it mean to have a relationship with you? What do you mean, come and find you? Tell me, what does this mean? Is this even possible? I knew that I was not living the life, and so I had to start somewhere. I had to be humble. I had to be real with myself. And I was willing to take the other end, the other route. I thought, okay, maybe some people will be wrong, but I'm going to see it for myself. And if I do find out that they're wrong, bye, I'm going to move on. So I studied the Bible with the church, and I examined their lives, and I examined what they were teaching me. But But at the same time, I had to fight major persecution from my family. I had to fight these religious demons, not my family members, the demons in the background that confused a lot of my loved ones. I had to see beyond what they're saying and see the spiritual battle for what it was. So I decided, okay, I'm going to give up everything. Sorority, bye. Dance friends, bye. Idolizing a career, bye. Idolizing myself, bye. Let me just figure out this God thing first. But it took courage to do that. Is that where you are today? Point number 3, heavenly, infinite radiance. Heavenly, infinite radiance. You know, the scariest thing about giving everything up for God is believing that it'll all be worth it. Giving up family is not easy. Giving up your image before people is not easy. A lot of my sorority friends, after I started looking for God, thought, man, what happened to Nat? Where'd she go? She's crazy now. But on the other end of things, I thought, I'm done. Bye, I'm good. I'm done with this life of partying, drugs, and alcohol, feeling like I have to prove myself to people. And so I started there in the Bible, and I wanted to find out what the truth was. So Mordecai finally persuades Esther to help him. It took a couple talks, some challenges. Esther at first was very, very skeptical. She said, Mordecai, I can't help. I can't just go up to the king and say, please save my people. He doesn't even know that I'm Jewish. What am I going to do? Mordecai said, do not think that because you are the king's in the king's house, you alone of all the Jews will escape. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place. But you and your father's family will perish. And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. And Esther changed her heart. We got to get good at overcoming hardship and believing in ourselves. Esther here rises to the occasion, and she was willing to even die for her people. She prays and fasts for 3 days and is willing to give up everything. Finally, the king asks Esther 3 separate times, Esther, what is it that you need? Honey, sweetie pie. I'm asking, let me know, what do you need? She finally gets the courage and says this. Esther 7, verses 1 through 8. So the king and Haman went to Queen Esther's banquet, and as they were drinking wine on the second day, the king asked again, Queen Esther, what is your petition? It will be given you. What is your request? Even up to half the kingdom, it will be granted. Queen Esther answered, if I have found favor with you, your majesty, and if it pleases you, grant me my life. This is my petition. Spare my people. This is my request. For I and my people have been sold to be destroyed, killed, and annihilated. If we had merely been sold as male and female slaves, I would have kept quiet because no such distress would justify disturbing the king. And that was that. Esther mustered up the courage to face their problems, to embrace pressure, and to finally just see what her destiny was all along. God had intended her to be the woman who would save the nation of all the Jews. She was going to leave an impact that would be eternal for people other than herself. My final question for you today is, will your impact on other women be earthly or will it be eternal? Will it be eternal? If you want it to be eternal, then find out how. Set up a Bible study today. Give it all you got. Do you really think that you have lots to lose? Time is short. Tomorrow is not promised. And give God a chance. Thank you very much.